Since Derek showed us a project, is this something you made? Hey everyone, hope you're doing well. Sequel to the first CS&Me class. Today we'll be going through some projects and animations that people made. And if you're interested in studying computer science or in this class in general, the link is down in the description down below. Register and join the Zoom every Monday PST time at 4:30 or 5:30. We have 2 classes. And as always, if you enjoyed the video, hit that like button, subscribe for more content, and turn on notifications, I guess. You don't have to, I really don't understand why people turn on notifications. Well, enjoy the video. It's the Untitled 31. Oh. Or is this something else you found online? If it's something you made, would you mind if we look through it and check what it does?
Okay, I don't care. Just press play.
Okay, we got permission. Do it. Oh!
Mute yourself. Mute yourself.
Oh. That's not what I was expecting. That's pretty good. Yeah, if you guys like Access, I don't think he minds, but yeah, so when you go to other people's, you can click see inside and we can examine his code, and that's a lot of code. And a lot of things that we haven't talked about. But actually I want to see this again. Nice. Good job. So I guess I can try to slowly explain it, or would you like to explain what your code does, Derek?
I put 2 lines.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the things for the ghost to go to after it touches the other line. So then when it touches the line on your right, it teleports back to the line on your left. And then it takes exactly, I think, about 4.5 seconds for it to start like going Sonic mode. And then he glides there. If you say glide 0.1 seconds to line, that means he has to go from his position to the line on the right in 0.1 seconds. That's why he goes super fast. And the if is for if it's touching line, and then go to the line on your left.
Nice. Yeah. I didn't even know that.
I put ghost 999. Look at the line. Look at the code in the line.
Yeah. I see that.
Look at the code in the line. It's super funny.
It's code
in the line.
Oh wait, nope. In the line. Oh. Oh. That's pretty funny. Yeah, so each script can have the code, and I guess you just set the effect to whatever that is. What does this block of code do?
It makes them more see-through. But then if you put more than 3 nines, then you can't even see them anymore.
And apparently you put them to a lot of 9s. 6 9s, and that's the limit. Wow. Well, this is really cool. Thanks for sharing. I don't think it's okay if you can't get something like this today, because I haven't covered most of this, but if you can go beyond, wow, I'm sounding like teachers now. This is pretty cool, yeah. This is something we're definitely going to cover in future classes though, but I don't know if we're going to have time to do that in the last one. So, okay, yeah, perfect. Let's get started. What is looks and sound? Well, it's pretty simple. Looks just means like, how do you look? So we talked about costumes, which is like the different animations, and the looks are just for changing the costume or how or their size. In the look section, there's also show and hide. That means it would just like make them appear or not appear. For sounds, well, it's basically just sound and music. Like there's a pop sound, like maybe if you're opening a bottle, you have like the oh wait, I can't do it. Yeah, but sounds are basically if you want to start a soundtrack or make some sound effects, then that's where you go. Make sense? A very quiet class today, I see. Okay, cool. Sure. Then let's keep going. I assume everybody understands. Alright, let's talk about variables. For you guys, have you guys learned about variables in math?
No.
Okay. Variables in math are pretty simple. Actually, you'll learn about them later. But what a variable means, it just means an unknown number. So, an example might be, let me do some anno, like, a common variable is we replace variables are used with letters. So like we got the letter X here, and that might equal a number, but we don't know what that is. That is a variable. It is an unknown number that can change. Or in other words, it can vary. So I have a question for you. What is X? Exactly. Nice. It was a trick question. We actually don't know what X is. X is just an unknown number that we haven't defined. So that means we haven't given it a number or a thing. So why do we use variables? Well, we use variables for when we need to calculate something, but we don't know what it is. Like, let's say you're making a game and you have a score. Well, what is your score? I don't know. It could be, some people might have 100, or the score might even increase each time. So that's why we set a variable, a number variable called score, and then we can start reassign it to a number, like 0 at first, and then we can change it as it goes along. Because if we just set score to like 1, and then we can't really change it. So variables are very important for like keeping track of numbers that can change. That's variables. Does anybody have any questions?
No.
Nice. Okay, oops. Let's go through some examples. Let's start exploring. So, well, these are some of the look section. You can take a look at them. You see, you can take a look at the look section. Okay, let's move on. Here's the sound section, so they play like sounds or change the pitch. You guys can like do stuff with them. We've talked about events, motion as well. So what events are is like how they start a program. So most common is just when the green flag is clicked. Sometimes you use when a key is pressed, or when the sprite is clicked. But these are less common ones. Oh, this is another very common one. So these can be thought of as messages. Like you can say, let's do new message. Like let's call it new sent message. So when you do green flag clicked, you broadcast send message. So that means you like tell everybody that you send message. So we can choose another sprite like Abby, and here it's empty. But when we do something called when I receive send message, then we can go to looks and say hello. So even though we click the green flag and it doesn't say if green flag is clicked, start, it still says hello because it's like a loop that can, I wouldn't say a loop, but it's a thread that sends messages to other characters or sprites so they can execute or run something. Um, yeah, any questions there? That might be a little confusing. Right, cool. Also assuming you guys don't have any questions, we talked about sensing before. That's just using your 5 senses to know if the user is saying something or inputting something. That's a cool term. Input means like you put something in. Operators are where there's math operations like add, minus, times, multiply, or there's some like random. And these are like conditions. If they have like the square, not square, but hexagon kind of looking thing, then that means you can use an if and you can compare the values and it will return either true or false. Another term that you might hear in the future when you do computer science is called booleans. Booleans is a true or false. That's basically all it is. Like integer means numbers from negative to positive, and strings means like words, and booleans are just true and false. And now we get to variables. Well, we just talked about variables actually. Well, one very common variable might be called score. When you have a Scratch account for more than 2 years, you get the option of cloud variable. What cloud variable does is it stores it in the cloud, or it stores it on Scratch's website, not on your computer. So what that means is that it will have this like cloud function, cloud look, and what that means is it will save your score. Because like let's say if you don't have a score, like this is 0 and you change that to 1, it doesn't save. If you reload the page, it will go back to 0. But if you have a score with a cloud, or if you have the cloud variable, it will actually remember the cloud and it will save it on their website. So a very common form of variables is a score. So you first set it to 0, and then whenever it does something, you change it by 1. Let's say, for simplicity, let's just assume that she did something for 10 times and she gets 10 score. So if we click run, she gets a score of 10. I don't know if it saves. Yes, so we can also highlight that to make it show or not show, or we can manually do that. Oh, whoops, hide to disable it. So that's variables. Now, a list. What is a list? Well, what does a list mean? It means like a group of things. Or I think you guys know what a list means. So we could just call this list 1, for example. Well, what does a list do? A list is useful for keeping track of like a lot of variables. Maybe you have a variable called like maybe don't do this, but call it what it actually does. But I'm just gonna do like number 1, number 2, and number 3. And you might be saying, oh, this is really hard to keep track of all these numbers, and maybe they all have the same, they are all using the same thing, but for different purposes. So what we can do is just have a list and add numbers to the list. And what that does is just, it helps keep track of everything you need. Pretty good. So that's a list. And now we go to my blocks. My blocks is very special, and it's hard to say this, but this is in computer science we call this functions, or sometimes they're also called methods. I won't talk about the difference between those. There are actually differences, but this is used in computer science. Will be using this. Well, you might be saying, well, what is a function or method? Do you guys have any idea? You guys have any questions about what I said so far? No questions? Mason, Eric? Okay. How about you, Mason? I can't really hear you if you're talking. Okay, I guess I will assume you know. I have no questions about this. Then I will. Yeah. Okay. Well, yes, I will kind of illustrate what a function in computer science means. Well, this is something that I like to think about it. A function is a box. And it's an unknown box. Or I wouldn't say it's an unknown box. You know what's inside of it. And you know how it works. But what would you do with this box is you would put things in, like a number, maybe 5, or maybe more than one number, so a list of numbers, or 3. And then what it outputs is a different number, or an object. So why might that be useful? Well, first, in coding, it might be useful because it's easier to read, as functions are used for a specific thing. But another thing is, let's say you want to add 5 and 3, but let's say that you want to do a really weird, wacky way of like adding one number to another and multiplying them together, and you have to do that with like 10 numbers. So instead of just doing it for each of the 10 numbers and copying and pasting, we can have a for loop, but what we also can have is just create a function. So whenever we create the function, then we can put numbers in, and then it will give us the number that we want. So that's functions. Does that make sense? Nice. Okay, now I will show you something that I actually learned a week ago. And I like to call this the dark side of Scratch. It's really not though. So you know how we have motion, look, sound, events, control, sensing, operators, variables, and my blocks. But if you go to the very bottom, there's this blue section with a plus. And if you click on that, whoa. Right here, there is many more sections, or many more things that you can add to your code that isn't already in the original. So you could think of this as like a plugin, a mod, an extension, or where other people can create things. So if you click on this, maybe you want a pen, then here it is. It adds a section called pen, and then you can use it. I won't really say what a pen does or what any of these do. You just have to test and see for yourself. And that's all the sections. So, finished a lot earlier than I thought, but nice. Then in that case, let's try experimenting with some of the new things. And mainly, the thing I want to talk about most is lists, is variables. So right here, a very common mistake is that variables can only be numbers, because you can set a variable to 0. Oh, thanks for typing. And you can change it by 1. But it doesn't have to be a number. If it's if you have it other than a number, you have to be careful of using change. If it's not a number, I would just use set all the time, because you can actually just do, well, other things, like maybe a boolean or a string. So strings is words, if you didn't remember. Characters, letters, many things. So now if we run this and we click on score, it says true instead of 0. But it doesn't make sense for us. Well, what happens if we do that and then rerun it? If we click on it, it changes to 1. Why does it do that? It's because these two are, let's call them different types. So, you know, like Pokemon, I don't know if this is a good analogy, but it's trying to, you're having a water type Squirtle, but you're trying to give it fire breath. It just doesn't really work because I don't think sea creatures can breathe fire. So if you wanted to change something, you'd have to have it with the same variable. In general cases, in this case, you actually can't do anything. You can only have numbers. Wow, that's a shame. Okay. Yes, numbers are the changes only for numbers. Okay. Well, here is also the time to introduce. Let's skip the code for a bit. Some homework. Gasp. I'm thinking of giving you guys homework. I talked about this before. Maybe I don't know if you were here or not, but we have the cat and mouse game. So what I want you guys to do is, using everything we learned, create a cat, create a mouse, and you can control the mouse using WASD and the arrow keys. And what you want to do is avoid the cat and eat the cheese. If the mouse eats the cheese, then make a sound and then spawn the cheese or move the cheese somewhere else and give the player 1 point or 1 score point. But if the cat eats the mouse, or the cat will also slowly chase the mouse. And if the cat eats the mouse, then it will also make a sound and then reset the game. And if you really want, you can also make a starting menu and then ending and a game over screen. And for a very another bonus, try experimenting with the clone function, which is in either control or events. I think it's control. And see if you can have not 1, but 2 cats, and it can increase the difficulty. So that's homework for next week. Does that make sense? So I will give you some ideas. So the only thing for variables you really want that you can have is the score, to keep track of the score. You don't have to make a cloud, because if you have a cloud, then I guess it wouldn't hurt, but you don't have to have a cloud variable. You just have a normal variable which you change. One other thing I would suggest you do is you would definitely need forever loops, and you would definitely need a touching something and a key something pressed. And last but not least, if statements. Using these, try to see if you can find a way to first move the cat, have a cheese, and then if the mouse is touching the cheese, then add 1 point and then move the cheese somewhere else. And then add the cat, and then you're all set. Okay, that's it for the lecture on my part. Now I have some other special things planned.